Welcome back to Inside Politics. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are in the second hour of the show, and former Nairobi Governor Mbuvi Sonko has now directed his lawyers to file an appeal at the East African Court of Justice, challenging the decision taken by the Supreme Court that he was legally impeached. According to Sonko, his rights were violated after he was impeached from office and due process was not followed. However, there are lawyers who argue that Sonko will still be on the ballot given that the Supreme Court did not overturn the ruling of the three-judge bench that directed the IEBC to clear him to vie for the Mombasa gubernatorial seat. Meanwhile, electoral body IEBC says it will give direction on whether to lock out Sonko or not this Tuesday, as Chris Tyro now reports.
A day after the Supreme Court ruled that former Nairobi Governor Mbuvi Sonko was properly impeached, the embattled, flamboyant former Nairobi Governor is still determined to save his political career.
We have filed for review before the same Supreme Court. We have filed also before the East African Court of Justice. And I want to tell also Kenyans, because see what we are conversant na sheria, yeah? The East African Court of Justice is recognized by our Constitution under Article 2, Sub-Article 4 and 5. Yeah? All the international treaties, international laws are being recognized. We are a member of the East African community, so we fall under that category. Some takasema as we Sonko kwisha, so that is the end of Sonko, including you media. It is the start of Sonko, not the end of Sonko.
The former governor feels that all is not lost.
I personally had a problem with Martha Koome. Number one, she went to a public TV station, a radio station, Spice FM, and declared her position that any impeached governor, Sonko being one of them, he's not supposed to be on the ballot. He's not supposed to vie until that impeachment motion is overturned by the courts. The same Chief Justice, I have a lot of respect for Martha Koome, but I want to tell her she's not above the law.
According to lawyers Danstan Omari and Charles Kanjama, Sonko still has a chance for a fair hearing at the East African Court of Justice, given that there was some precedence when NAK Kenya party leader Martha Karua moved to court challenging the decision of the Supreme Court that had ruled that Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru won the elections.
Sonko will only be barred from proceeding with a governor's contest if there is evidence that all avenues of appeal have been exhausted. That is a provision of Article 99 of the Constitution. Now, if Sonko makes an appeal to the East African Court of Justice, that is sufficient to stop IEBC from denying him the right to contest, because there will be a pending appeal.
Meanwhile, IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati says decision on whether to lock out Sonko of Mombasa County Governor race will be known by Tuesday next week, adding that the commission's lawyers are still going through the ruling by the Supreme Court.
I'm not giving up. Nimedhulumiwa, why should I give up? Wangenipatia time ya fair hearing, fair trial, nipata fair justice.
Sonko's lawyers are already preparing to file a petition at the East African Court of Justice by Monday and later serve IEBC with the petition papers, hoping that the electoral body will not revoke his certificate. Chris Tyro, KTN News, Nairobi.
Indeed, and that story, of course, sets the stage for this discussion on, is it the political end for Sonko? Bichachi, what do you make out of all this? Heading to the ESCJ, the Supreme Court didn't quite give a ruling on the, on whether he will be in the ballot. What do you make out of all these intrigues, even as you, rejoined before you went for the break?
I want to disabuse is this obsession really with some sections of the political divide with something called state capture, which is an anamorphous thing which they have decided to brand everything that is done by government, because they want to show that everything done by government is done for the profit and benefit of one person. And this is really one, hilarious, and two, very sad, simply because when you go to visit, for example, Mukuru kwa Njenga or Mukuru kwa Ruben, which is behind us here at the KTN Center, you will see large containers of water being distributed to people by NMS. Is that also state capture? You will see hospitals built by NMS. Is that state capture? What do we mean when we say state capture? When the people receive the services they need, has it been captured by the state? And these are the kind of issues that we need to run away from, that we need to recognize when good is done and recognize when something is bad. And when good is done, Mswahili alisema baniani muwe lakini haki yake mpe. You need to give credit where credit is due. And I don't think you lose any political points by admitting that the people of Nairobi have benefited in a large way through NMS, and there's nothing wrong with admitting that. To the point at hand here, the issue of Sonko and whether his goose is cooked. As far as I'm concerned, the truth of the matter is this, that even without the impeachment of Gideon Mbuvi Sonko, he did not qualify to be governor of Nairobi. Whether you like it or not, we need to go back to chapter 6 of the Constitution. He is a self-admitted prison prefect, which means he has had a criminal charge that has been confirmed against him, and he did not appeal it, and therefore he had exhausted appeal on that particular matter. Number 2, he was legally impeached, and all the courts, starting from the Magistrates, High Court, Supreme Court, all of them have said that he was legally impeached, meaning that there was a judicial process, both now in the judiciary and in the Senate, that confirmed that Gideon Mbuvi alias Sonko is not the kind of person we want to be governor of Nairobi or anywhere else. Now, I know this is depressing to his supporters, and it is not my intention to disparage them. I think you have the right to support whoever you want, but also you cannot support Sonko and be a supporter of the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, because the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya simply states what should happen when someone has been impeached and they're not fit to run for office. Now, of course, people will then say, oh my goodness, what happens to his political career? And let me say this, that number 1, he has not been barred from voting. So he has a political career as a voter. Number 2, he's not been barred from supporting whichever side he wants. So he has a political career as a political supporter. He just does not have a political career as anyone who should be voted to an executive office in the land called Kenya. And why is this critical? This is critical not on behalf of just Sonko. It is critical in protecting the Constitution and protecting the people of Kenya from leaders who would practice the kind of malfeasance that we saw Sonko practice. Therefore, it is a good thing for us to set up the legal ramifications for acting in the manner that Sonko did while he's in office. But Sonko, my advice to you is, you are an influential leader. You maybe have learned your lesson. What you need to spend your time on now is, number 1, being a responsible voter, and number 2, telling your supporters who a responsible leader is, and turn those votes that you have into actual change by supporting a leader who will deliver for the people.
Husband, are we going to see Sonko in the ballot?
Well, I think legally, I don't see any legal stumbling blocks, because for starters, what the Supreme Court did was pronounce itself on the fact that Sonko was impeached in a manner that was legal, procedurally, and therefore the appeal that he was waiting for, the one that guaranteed him, that opportunity to be on the ballot, is already finished, So as it is right now, I mean, there's no way he can be on the ballot. But it seems like he still has avenues for appeal, which can, find recourse in the law. So if he goes to the East African Court of Justice, then what that means, from what I see, is that he's buying time to ensure that IBC cannot stop him from being on the ballot on the basis of another appeal. And I think our legal framework allows him to do that. I mean, most of the treaties that we subscribe to basically means that all the laws, within those treaties are domesticated, and therefore he has a right to appeal. And we've seen so many cases that have ended up at the East African Court of Justice. I think cases on legislation, on laws that have been made in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania that have gone all the way to the East African Court of Justice. So to that extent, I mean, if his political and legal advisors tell him that, this is the way to go and he appeals at the East African Court of Justice, then I don't think there is anything that is going to stop him from being on the ballot. Because if IBC then stops him, then IBC will be contravening the law. But let me just say that this is not a very light issue, and that's why you see Sonko is fighting for his life, his political career, because what the Supreme Court pronouncement, which upheld both the High Court and the Court of Appeal rulings, means is that Sonko will not have a career in politics. It's finished. Neither can he be appointed in any public or state office. It's completely finished. So that idea of using his political clout to support any political formation would just be acting like a citizen who wants good leadership. But I don't think there's any political reward, if at all, the ruling by the Supreme Court is also upheld elsewhere, or his team decides that they're not going to appeal that. So to a large extent, you'd understand why there is this back and forth. There is this, never say die attitude in the way Sonko is talking, because it's really putting an end to his political career, and I don't think that's something that someone of Sonko's age would want to take lying down. So his fight is understandable. But let me just revisit the issue of Nairobi, NMS, and anger. One, on the issue of NMS, I think NMS is in the past. I mean, we don't care what Sakaja or Rigathi will do with NMS. We know that there is a transition from what we have now going forward. We need to hear what they will do for Nairobi. NMS has been a success to many Nairobians because they delivered service when we had a rogue governor who thought that he was invincible because he had created an avenue where impeaching him was putting us in a constitutional crisis. Thank God we had NMS. And then number two, we also need to run away from this issue of, inciting or getting people to political rallies where the only thing that takes them there is to go and heckle leaders or, cause havoc. I mean, for heaven's sake, if you don't believe in a political leader and is coming to your area, there is no reason why you need to show up and make a nuisance of yourself. Stay at home.
Yes, I think as Sonko attempts to navigate the political risks of the impeachment and whether the law infrastructure will be able to contain him or not, I think that's a discussion for another day. But from where I stand, and I'm not taking counsel. I'm not a counsel for Sonko. Is that the political system in this country is unfair. Sonko is more competent and qualified than Raila Odinga. We don't even know the paperwork that Raila Odinga has. Today, he's a presidential candidate. Why would you say that? Sonko has a better record of development in Nairobi than Raila Odinga, billboard of his development in Kibra at the end of the day. Yet one cannot run. He has to be sanitized by the system. That's the reason why I'm telling my colleagues that state capture is real at the end of the day. And you know that Okuro Court and a few other gentlemen went to court and they said, why do you allow one gentleman that looks like he's incompetent in terms of sitting within the house on the hill, and then you victimize others? So we sit in a nation where state capture has influenced democracy at the end of the day. And this is where Sonko, as a small person, he has to go and suck up to this person and suck up to the other person so that he can be able to receive the requisite justice that he desires. Even though when he says that you have to exhaust all means of administrative justice at the end of the day, yourself and myself know that those ones may not necessarily sit within the court. They sit within a segmented political system whereby one works as a laundromat. You know, Msafi kama pamba, if you're corrupt, you go to that side and they clean you up and they throw you in power. But you cannot tell me that you have one presidential candidate who we don't even know his paperwork. And at the end of the day, it's a skewed system. It's a skewed system. And at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that for us to be, no, it's unknown. It's unknown from where we sit.
Let's not.
But the truth is, I'm just trying to paint a picture of the unfairness that there is in this country. You understand, at the end of the day. But the truth is, I think it's important that we maintain the precedence of impeachment. I think within the county governments, governors must be trained to conform to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. And I think integrity will implicate those ones who are corrupt, and that needs to be maintained. And I think from where we sit, a corrupt leader should not pursue leadership again. It is subtle madness. You understand? When you have been impeached based on the fact that you're either incompetent or corrupt, and you still want to lead, you understand? And because we have sometimes a minority of people who can be paid to make noise for you, so we think that you're going to be relevant within County A. So we have to ensure that we entrench the infrastructure of Chapter 6. But even that, Chapter 6, and when you look at Chapter 13 of the Constitution that speaks on public service, we can't have one guy who is privileged by the law, who by all means, his paperwork, his development record is incompetent, and then we have still within the same system another man struggling to make himself available for leadership.
As you come in, what does this even speak about political parties that absorb leaders who have been impeached in terms of Chapter 6, the moral, even the public outlook really? What's your take on that?
First of all, Maringa, we can't allow Dennis to commit murder. Dennis has committed murder and he cannot be let to walk away with it. What do you mean? You cannot compare Michael Sonko's capacity to lead a county government and Raila Odinga's capacity to lead a national government. That is voodoo logic, eptomite. No, I mean, you had your time, yeah. So,
what is the development record for Raila Odinga?
You had your time. Allow me to make.
No, you're addressing me. If you're addressing me, I'll answer you.
Yeah, allow me.
So address your points. Yeah,
so this is the kind of toxic politics we must run away from. Fake news, alternative facts, lies, and deceit. You cannot compare. You cannot compare those two personalities.
No. Yeah. I mean, if you're saying I'm doing voodoo politics, I want him to take us to the area where we can see Raila's development record. Period. Otherwise, let's not perambulate on air and say that
Mr. Raila Amolo Odinga has had a stellar record, starting as an MP, being a cabinet minister, being a prime minister, being an opposition leader, and being a presidential candidate. So any attempts to compare him with Mike Mbuvi Sonko is unacceptable. Number two, the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, has confirmed that the impeachment process of Mike Mbuvi Sonko was solid, that everything was done according to the law. Raila Odinga has not been found guilty by anybody, whether it's a judicial body, quasi-judicial. He has not been found guilty by any organization in the world, so that you start comparing. So that kind of voodoo logic is unacceptable, and we cannot encourage it a few weeks to the election. Now, going back to Mike Mbuvi Sonko, political parties in Kenya are merely special purpose vehicles, and the political party leaders, who are supposed to be the first point of checking out whether people have got capacity or competence, they do not care. They throw caution to the wind. They invite everybody because they know a number of these people have got very high capacity for mobilization. If political parties in Kenya were very serious, would not be having all these issues about qualification and integrity, because they would be the first people to vet these candidates. That's number one. Number two, the Supreme Court in Kenya cannot be subordinate to another court anywhere else in the world. I've spoken to scholars, I've spoken to lawyers, I've spoken to judges. So anybody who says that he wants to go to another court and then go to IBC and say that I want to exhaust the appeal mechanism, then all they want to do is to buy time. When the drafters of the Constitution say that you exhaust the appeal mechanism, it is supposed to stop at the Supreme Court. Maybe the only option he may have is to ask the Supreme Court to review its decision, because the Supreme Court is not bound by decisions by lower courts, the High Courts, and the Court of Appeal. They're not even bound by their own decisions. They can review them. So he hopes that he's going to throw in that strategy, so that there's a time lapse and his name is in the ballot, so that he starts fighting out when he's already been elected, if he gets to win the election. But my guesswork, if he attempts to ask the Supreme Court to review their own decision, that is something they can review in 1 hour and make a judgment. But at the end of the day, let's ask ourselves as voters, while we all acknowledge that Sonko is amongst the most intelligent politicians in Kenya, but as voters, as Moran, Afula, and Wanjiku, why do we vote in people knowing very well that they may not have capacity and they may not be competent, but we still go ahead and vote for them?
Why do you know political parties just go ahead and take such politicians?
Now, such kind of politicians, first of all, political parties are a special purpose vehicle. So for you to have that capacity to form a political party, it means that you need resources. Some of these guys come with resources, and they come with a very high capacity for mobilization. I suspect that's the reason why Kalonzo Musyoka was very happy to have Sonko as his candidate in Mombasa, because not only does he come with the capacity to mobilize, maybe he's got resources. But at the end of the day, Mora should ask herself, is there what is the benefit or what is the cost of electing incompetent leaders or persons without capacity? You give them powerful office and you expect to break into a dance and song. Indeed.
We need to take in our callers, our viewers also who are watching us after the break. Do stay with us. We are back in a few minutes with your call. You can call in as well with the calls, or rather with the numbers that are on your screen, as well as I'll be sampling your feedback that I'm seeing coming in so fast on the social media platforms as well. Do stay with us. We are back in a few minutes.